Welcome to this edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast, featuring our discussion of the FX original series Taboo, episode 7 of season 1. I'm your host, Foxman, and I'm joined by a man who chooses snackies way too close to the Xbox microphone. What up, Mothman?
Oh man, that's an in joke that no one will get. Right?
Well, I mean, there's not much to it. Basically, we play video games together online, and you chew your snackies way too close to the microphone.
That's true. No, what I'm going to say, though, is, you know, we've talked about this show being kind of hard to podcast about, and there not necessarily being enough going on, and blah, blah, blah. There was so much intrigue and, like, craziness in this episode that I, for once, feel like I have the proper bona fides to podcast about this.
You've used the word bona fides. Is that like your word of the day? Because you used it like 6 times pre-podcast.
It isn't. It's actually just that I heard someone say it aloud for maybe the first time ever, and heard it said that way, and it took me a minute to realize what it was and realize I was saying it wrong the whole time. And then we were talking about it before the podcast, and you kind of acted like I wasn't telling the truth. So I went on Dictionary, like the app, and I muted the mic in case I was wrong. But then I felt really good because...
Bona fides.
Bona fides. It kind of sounds perverted. Bona fides.
Oh, jeez. Okay. For those of you joining us for the first time, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit, where we totally don't post boning fetuses. Or you can check out our website, www.boobtubebuddies.com, to get in on the conversation. We will make sure all your thoughts, theories, and strange pronunciations make it on air. So, Mothman, before you go off on another sweet tangent, would you like to jump into our first segment?
Yes, but I have one question for you first. If I showed up at the Women's March with a sign that said that slogan we just made, do you think I would have, like, added or detracted to the message?
I think that you'd have been one of those people that gets punched in the faces at the marches.
Probably pretty accurate. Okay, I am ready for our first segment. Summon it up in a tweet.
Oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up. Summon it up, oh yeah, we're summon it up. Oh yeah, we're summon it up, so summon it up. Summon it up and up.
Tweet.
Okay, so for my tweet, once again, I would love if you could just do a beatbox for it.
God damn it. Okay. All right.
End of incest, surprise, mercy, death, God damn it, it's so hard to rap. All right. End of incest, surprise, mercy, death. Anti-hero becomes even more heinous. Strange makes a move, but can Delaney counter? God frees a Molly. You're way too intense with that. I'm gonna just read it now.
Good job, Mothman.
All right, the last part was just God frees a Molly because I didn't know what else to say.
Okay. All right. Nice job. I felt like I probably couldn't match that myself, so I actually brought in the help of a very old friend and just a dear confidant and one of my true bona fides. So will you kick it over to him real quick, Mothman?
Absolutely. Let's hear from Robo Foxman.
All right, Robo Foxman, you prepped a summon it up in a tweet, right?
Here's the thing. I'm a little drunk.
God damn it. Well, I don't have anything, so you're going to have to do it anyway.
Okay. Shit got real this episode. Helga flipped.
Trust erodes.
Delaney is tortured, but Yankey Doodle Dandy is
Such a pal, he is sure to save the day.
in the finale.
God damn it, dude. You're a fucking mess. Okay. All right. Well, that was Drunk Robo Foxman, and that was Summon It Up in a Tweet.
Oh my god. That pitch shift was absolutely phenomenal.
Did you like my Drunk Foxman?
Yeah, no, your Drunk Robo Fox was pretty above par. I loved it.
Above par. God damn it, Stoic Daddy, you strike again.
What's funny is like my default was to say in a very positive tone that was subpar, and then I realized like, but that's not true. It was actually really good. How do you say that? And it, my brain just wasn't fast enough on its feet.
Your brain wasn't fast enough on its feet
to give a compliment.
All right, we got to get into this episode because I can't wait to talk about the sensory deprivation chamber that he goes into. So
yeah,
let's start at the beginning and make our way up to that point. And if anything happened after that, I don't know what it is because I drifted off into such an LSD-driven dream state at that point that there was no coming back.
Oh, fair enough. So, Winter died last episode. We're not quite sure if he did it, like in a drunken rage. And here we are at the funeral. Helga definitely kind of thinks he did it. The mother-in-law doesn't think he did it. He
kind of thinks that he did it.
Yeah, like he doesn't seem like, you don't get any kind of insight into whether he definitely did it or definitely didn't. We're not really viewing it from that perspective, but yeah, he's not acting so sure that he's innocent.
When I die, I really want an Ashokan's farewell.
Yeah, like just go off into the middle of the sea in a boat.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd really like it if you would shoot flaming arrows at the boat.
Viking funeral. That's what I want. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want you to play the song Ashokan's Farewell too.
I mean, I'm sure that's doable. You're definitely going to die before me.
Right? Ashokan's Farewell.
Your voice is so angelic. Now I want to die first.
All right. So anyway, obviously now that Winter is dead, Delaney starts seeing Ghost Winter, and he's in his little drunken state at the house. I love that Chichester comes over, and at one point Chichester's like, should we maybe do this in the daylight?
Yeah.
And Tom Hardy is like, no, I'm like this all the time.
Yeah. I love how he is now like, this is like the day after him just getting so shit-faced that he potentially killed someone, and yet he's already just having some brandy the next evening.
Yeah, there's no rock bottom for this guy.
No, there really isn't. Although I do kind of feel like if he was thrusting his crotch in the face of his daughter, he might feel like he hit rock bottom.
In the face of his... Who?
Sorry, Always Sunny reference from last week's episode.
Oh, that's right. Okay, very nice. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good, Muffin. Yeah. Okay, so Chichester wants to know all about the Cornwallis, or the Influence, whatever you want to call it, but which sank in 1804, and Delaney basically is kind of ready to give up some information here, and Chichester wants him to write out like a full-on official statement that Sir Stuart Strange, whose name I fuck up the first time every time, and so now we see like, okay, Chichester is like a full-on part of the plot, because before it's like, why even introduce a character like that nothing hangs on him at all? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no, it goes from like not having a whole, I mean, being important in terms of like commentary and just the times they're living in and kind of bringing up slavery, but otherwise not the most well-placed character, to being super, super pivotal. And at this point, since the very first episode, we've kind of speculated about what exactly was the evil that Delaney did, because he does talk about working for Strange, or as I like to call him, Susu Strange, because it's a little easier to say. Anyway, he kind of talks about like I think there's the line, I know the evil you do because I've been a part of it, and you assume it's slavery, but you're not sure the extent, and then to understand that he's the one that nailed down on the gates, or the grates or whatever of the ship, and let all the slaves drown at his orders. Pretty fucked up.
Definitely fucked up. I mean, we've seen flashback scenes to him, to them there before, but not necessarily his involvement with trapping them in there.
Yeah, because he spent time in Africa, and you're just not sure if is it flashbacks to the plights he's seen? Has he been kind of in the area as slaves have been taken, and maybe he couldn't stop them because it's armed men, but no, he's absolutely been implicit in it, and that's what all those comments are to Sir Stuart. God, I can't say it either. It's the hardest name in the world.
Sister Stuart Strange.
Yeah. Stuart. Anyway.
Why'd you sing it like you were mentally handicapped? Sister Stuart. That's inappropriate, dude. Grow up, Mothman.
It was kind of like the Kermit the Frog voice. Sir Stuart.
Oh, Jesus.
That's what it was.
All right, stick with us, folks. This is gonna get good at some point.
Okay.
All right, so he goes to see Helga, and man, she is not a very good shot.
No, she isn't. And she just yells, "Murderer!" She doesn't like him. She thinks he's the killer of her. I don't really remember.
The killer of who?
Of Winter.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot in terms of what she's like said in this episode. Like the only time I remember her being significant was the fact that she decides to give up Delaney around the gunpowder stuff. But I was trying to remember, does she actually know about all the gunpowder stuff, or was Stuart Strange just saying, "I need you to say this"?
Yes. No, she knows a decent amount of what's going on. So I don't know if she knows every single detail, but she was pretty plugged into what was happening.
And I remember, she was involved in him taking over the place for his, she knows a lot, but I wasn't sure if she actually knew the gunpowder stuff and if she was just filling in the blanks. But anyway.
I mean, there might be limitations to what her involvement is, but for the most part, it seems like she is all in. And so then Delaney ends up going straight from there to where the gunpowder is stored, which, by the way, we find out is the room that his mother was kept in. And as he divulges that secret, we look over and we see this super medieval looking bed with chains and shackles all over it.
Yeah, I didn't know what to actually think of that. I wasn't sure what it was trying to say there.
Basically, I think that this is the room that she had been shuttered up in, and we're just seeing that it was not a comfortable stay. She was basically a prisoner there.
I gotcha. I'm trying to remember what happened. Because she was obviously, according to Brace, so ill that she was trying to kill her own son. So
Yes.
Is it implying that the father just tied her up in there?
I thought that it was sent away to this hospital sort of thing. So I thought that this was a room at the hospital, which maybe had since been broken, or a dilapidated type building.
That makes sense.
Closed down.
Yeah,
I don't know that that's
of
necessarily the case. That was just kind of my take on it. I was dead ass fucking wrong about that kid being his little brother. So God knows I'm not getting the whole story right every time.
Yeah. I guess I could see that. I mean, especially if you think about how they used to view mental health and how they would accommodate those things. I'm sure it wasn't too much different than how they tortured Delaney later.
I have to say, because Atticus is in the scene, and I really like him playing across from Tom Hardy, because they're both manly men type guys, but great acting chops, and he is just the perfect kind of guy to put across from Tom Hardy. And the fact that even he is a real badass tough guy in this show, clearly it becomes more and more obedient and a little bit scared of Delaney. It really makes his character seem even tougher.
Yeah, they have they went from there not being almost any semblance of it. In the beginning when they first met, and he reveals he didn't kill Delaney's father, even though they asked him to. They just kind of seem like pals. But you slowly see that it become not so much a friendship and more of he is just a grunt soldier working for Delaney that is scared of what might happen should he decide to change sides.
Yeah, because in the beginning we see him kind of dicking around with him, maybe he stole his horse and stuff like that, and
sure.
But I don't think he would do anything like that now.
No, not after he's seen him cut the heart out of a man.
Yeah. What do you think about this? Jim and Pam, will they, won't they? Ross and Rachel, Courtney Cox and Matthew Perry, sort of thing between Zilpha and James Delaney.
Oh, you mean how she finally succumbed to his wiles and's I'm going to kill my husband and go back to my life of incest, and he's
emphasis on the cum and the succumb.
Yeah, and he's just nah, you're crazy. I got other stuff to do.
Yeah, yeah, and he's like, here's a diamond for your widowhood. And she just cries, and it's like, God damn, dude. Like, that is pretty fucking heartless.
Yeah, you know.
To treat your sister bae like that?
It's just so weird. He's just, he went from a man of few morals to even less this episode. I guess that's why it's called Taboo. There's just not really any safe characters by any stretch of the imagination.
There's no rock bottom.
Yeah, there really isn't. Like, everyone has their own very unique rock bottom.
So this is also the episode now where we finally find out that it was actually Brace who was the one who poisoned his father. I know, and like it Brace just looks so brokenhearted that he finds out, and he tries to say it was a killing of kindness, and that his father was constantly being hounded by the company, and there was no life to live. And I mean, it's obvious to an extent that Brace feels bad. Like, I got more that he felt bad than was scared by any means, but at the same time, I didn't necessarily buy his story. I mean, I guess they haven't shown us enough about Delaney's father's living conditions in life for me to, sympathize with Brace there. I did sympathize with Brace only because he's like such a normal guy, whereas obviously there's a little bit of a psychotic break going on throughout the rest of the Delaney family. He does say, like, I should have killed James too. That's my regret. Yeah, which, I mean, is he totally wrong? I mean, like, would everybody not be better off if James Delaney had never come back? I mean, I guess yes, but I'm okay with half of the people that aren't better off, and it's weighing out is those shitty people having a worse time better than, those other people. What other people? Well, like, so for example, Zilpha's life. Example. So for example, did you look that up? Yeah. Did you look that up too? That's how it's pronounced. Yeah. So Zilpha, for example, arguably her life is worse off because she's now killed her husband, this, then, the other. But at the same time, Winter's life also definitely and definitively worse off. Sure, but one, we don't know who killed her for sure. So until they say that, I'm not going to say it's fully to blame for him. But Zilpha... Yeah, but if he hadn't come back, none of it would have happened. True, but Zilpha, for example, I mean, was in a terrible relationship that we don't really know the extent of. I mean, it was obviously escalated by him coming back, but it didn't seem like she was necessarily happy, right? That's true, but... Yeah, no, that's true. But I mean, it was just an oppressive relationship. It didn't look like there was necessarily, like, physical beatings going on or anything ahead of time. And not, like, saying that that's okay, but it's certainly better than, like, multiple people losing their lives. I think it's a positive that he lost his life. Winter, I feel bad for. And the whole East India Company, like, things coming down around their heads, I think is a positive. Now, granted, with the turns this episode takes, you're not certain that that's going to happen. So if this just ends with them getting away with everything, then yes, he should have stayed in Africa. The scene where it's like, I think it's the next one, where it's at Sir Stuart Strange's office at the East India Trading Co. And Helga comes in and tells basically the whole crew about the gunpowder thing. And that's when we get James Delaney's middle name. Did you happen to remember it? No. Keziah? Keziah! James Keziah. Wasn't that a movie about a genie with Shaquille O'Neal? That's Kazam, first off. But it makes me think of another Orlando Magic thing. The announcer for the Magic is so awful and bland and vanilla. And Keziah! Yes, I'm sure that he was told by, like, production, like, listen, you got to put in a couple of, like, boom, there goes the dynamite or something like that. And so all of a sudden one day he just starts going, every time there's a 3 or a dunk, he just starts going, Kapaya! Kapaya? Kind of like papaya, but with the kapaya. Oh, weird. Exactly. Pretty sweet. That is absolutely amazing. Real quick, do you remember an article circulating around the internet that blew my mind? A lot of people are convinced there was a wizard movie with Sinbad called Shazam. Oh, yeah. And that never existed at all. I thought that it did. I could have swore that I had seen it. I know. That's the weird thing, is the moment I read the title before I got to the part of the article that said it didn't exist, I was like, I kind of remember trailers for that. That's like that dress that is it black and blue or blue and gold or black and gold. You remember that one?
I do remember that, and that also is very unique, but just it seems just a whole nother magnitude of weird for people to recall some like nostalgia and moment from their childhood that just never was there. As opposed to just,
weird,
right? Like, I don't know. It's very Twilight Zone-ish.
This scene where all of the stuffy white dudes sitting around laughing and toasting their drinks reminds me of, have you ever seen that meme? It's like Dick Cheney, George Bush Sr., and like a bunch of like just, old rich white dudes sitting around like laughing hysterically in the picture, and they are all like have like their tumblers with scotch and stuff like that. And it's just a meme that's used about like like scheming rich white guy type stuff, and that's exactly what this made me think of.
I don't think I've seen that meme, but I have seen that famous painting of all the dogs playing poker.
Okay.
Pretty similar, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Like a mix between that and The Last Supper.
Oh my god, you are out of your goddamn mind right now. Are you still stuck in the LSD sensory deprivation chamber? Is any of this real?
I never quite know, to be honest with you.
Okay, so I thought we were going to get a cool little voodoo fire scene in the woods, but Yankey Doodle Dandy comes in and erupts, and we only got maybe 2 shots of Crow Bitch?
I know, but she looked like a little more Pocahontas, like a little more, in the past, in the past she's always been like a blue, yes, a little bit. In the past she's always been like a blue dress, but this one she's in more Native American style garb, and then instead of just having the all white face and black eyes, she kind of had the 2 streaks of color. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it looked like something cool was going to happen because we could see him in all of his fancy body paint too, but then nothing comes of it. And I know you were just, because he's sitting there shirtless, you were probably just sitting there popping bees. You probably didn't even notice that Crow Bitch was there. I love how all season we've been talking about that promo shot, and it's basically just from a flashback. From a fever dream is actually what it was. Yeah, it's from a fucking fever dream. I feel like when you were sick last week, that's what your fever dreams were. Just Tom Hardy in a loincloth. I thought of, when I was watching the show, I thought of a really funny segment that we should have been doing the whole time, since you were so fond about talking about his lats early on. Oh, here he goes. And then I somehow got tricked into adopting it. No puppet, you're the puppet. Yeah, but how great would it have been if we had a drop in everything for longitude and latitude? Excuse me? As a segment, we could have done longitude and latitude, and we just talk about his lats. We do it 5 minutes every episode anyway. You always want to do body talk with Tom Hardy. I hate it. More like schlongitude and latitude, right? Oh, God. No. Okay, can we get back on track here? Sure. Or we could go to an Audible ad. If you feel comfortable with that. I think I do, because I feel like... If we don't throw to an Audible ad right now, it's going to be really fucking weird, so yes, please throw to an Audible ad. All right, we'll be right back.
Whoa there, little buddies. Gus McFoxman here. Welcome to your Every Desire Realized is brought to you by the good fellas at Boob Tube Buddies. They're cooking up new dick and fart jokes as we speak. Me? I'm just over here enjoying this book, Lonesome Dove, one of the great classic Western tales. A whole damn series to be precise. Watch your step there, partner.
This is so stupid. Shut the fuck up, Mothman. I'm doing this, goddammit.
Sorry about that. You can go to www.audibletrial.com/boobtubebuddies to get your free month's trial. It's free for you, and it's a great way to support the podcast. Don't squat on your spurs, little buddies.
And we're back. Right, Mothman? Did I do it?
All right, you did it. You got it.
All right, let's jump right back into it. All right, so the meeting with East India Trading Co. and Coop, talking basically about everything that Helga has reported to them. And I thought it was pretty clever. The East India Trading Co. had stashed Helga and the other girl off somewhere where the Crown doesn't know where they're at, essentially using them as leverage to negotiate a monopoly agreement on the trade that's going to go through Nootka Sound.
Yeah, to basically get to the agreement of, you guys, the Crown gets the land, we get the tea trade. Let's make a deal.
Yep, let's do it and arrest the bastard.
Yeah. So, they're kind of doing their backdoor deals. They have this master plan that if the girls go along with it and go ahead and have written statements and accuse them of what is essentially treason and conspiring against the Crown, then
and
there's
what is
all
Delaney doing while this is happening?
While this is happening, I don't know. They're trying to convince him that he should leave.
Look at your notes. Look at your notes and read the first line.
Delaney hulking around town.
Hulking around town, you fucking queer.
Hulking around town. Oh, God. Anyway, we should have saved that for longitudes and latitudes.
Yeah, exactly. I do honestly like his strut, his gait is so awesome because his lats are so big that it sweeps his arms out and makes his trench coat thing fly around like he's the fucking Batman. It's the coolest thing ever.
He does kind of walk like he has a rash between his thighs.
Yeah,
they aren't allowed to touch. It's very awkward. But
Yankey Doodle Dandy's like, why are you walking like that? And he's like, because my balls are stuck to my leg.
And he's like, oh dear, I'll do anything you say, sir.
My.
He had a really weird voice. I feel like I haven't paid attention to him talking that often, and maybe it was because he was so scared by the whole ordeal, but he was just like, what should we do? I don't understand, Mr. Delaney.
It's the voice that you do in that one Audible ad with the guy who's trying to get into the house.
Please let me in. There's monsters outside. Monsters.
You're a funny little guy. But
That's
okay,
right.
so anyway, this is where they go meet with Chichester, and that's when we kind of find out that even though Delaney going to jail, his little buddy, the powdered Molly guy, is going to essentially, flip on the East India Trading Co.
Yeah, the idea is that he would give an official written statement and signature to kind of move the law forward. And Chichester just assumes he's going to actually go to court and be a witness or whatever. Meanwhile, they kind of have a little backdoor deal where Delaney kind of says, "You don't actually have to testify. You just have to give the statement. I'll be gone, and my plan will be kind of over by the time it goes to court, and you can just withdraw." Because otherwise, he's terrified of what the Crown or the East India Company will do to him.
I could be mistaken, but I thought that last episode, the East India Trading Co. realized that they had a leak, that somebody was letting loose information to Delaney. So why would he not be the first person in those chambers that they look at?
I don't really feel like I know enough about the makeup of all the people there to understand why they would immediately look at him. They did establish
the reason
there was
why
a
I
leak.
say that is because the rest of them all look like they're board members or C-level employees, whereas he is just basically the scribe. So wouldn't you look at the person at the bottom rung as the person least invested in the East India Trading Co.'s success?
Maybe, but at the same time, if you're Sir Stuart Strange and you're a terrible piece of shit, you've probably done terrible things to everyone in that room and kind of crossed them in one way or another. And maybe in your mind, it's more likely that they would have an axe to grind than the new guy that wants to impress all his bosses and work his way up.
You know what? I'll buy that, actually. But I will say that there was no mention of the leak again until they found out later
it's
that...
him.
Yeah, exactly. So it should have been mentioned again. But you are right that maybe it's not so cut and dry that it would have been him.
Sure. But yeah, I would agree. They kind of bring that up, don't pursue it, and then it's just in their lap and they know.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, I love when Delaney gets arrested, how he's sitting in the room with all the other Mollies there for a minute, and the one sasses him up a little bit, and he just threatens that he's like, you might want to leave now, or else you'll be met with extreme violence.
Yeah, and what Julia and I were wondering is, why is his makeup cracked? Has he just been wearing that makeup for days straight?
Yeah, maybe that's sort of like the look of it, like a Halloween sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It was definitely creepy.
Maybe it's like a morning after type look, and that's like what's en vogue at the time.
Maybe. Kind of like that like gruff 5 o'clock shadow that all the boys are wearing these days.
Exactly. All right, before we move on, why don't you read out the last sentence of that paragraph?
Delaney has offered to take him with him when he sails away?
No, the next paragraph.
Delaney is beaten pretty severely and left nakies?
You're such a fucking weirdo.
Oh man, your notes really crack you up.
I love my little notes. Okay, all right, so let's get to the next part where we find out from the kid who was basically doing like a do-si-do with himself during Winter's funeral, that which I found that strange that he was behaving like that and doing all the weird spinny things, because I thought like that he's just some kid that doesn't really give a shit that she's died, like just happened to be like an orphan kid that got dragged there, you know, by his parents or something like that. So I was a little surprised when he's sitting, I called him an orphan kid and then said dragged there by his parents. That definitely didn't make sense implicitly. But I was a little surprised that he had made like a little shrine to her. And anyway, that's how we find out that it was actually East India Trading Co. that killed Winter, not Delaney, which we don't ever actually see like a flashback of it. But that's what we're given by the mother-in-law's conversation with Brace afterwards.
Yeah, odd that this episode, they kind of like, you know, you're expecting since episode 1, there's this nefarious plot by East India Trading Company, and they slowly poison Delaney's father with arsenic, and you realize that isn't true, that actually Brace did it. And then they're like, but we still want them to be nefarious, so let's just have them kill that little girl.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just one more thing for us to realize, like, he really is the bad guy here. Make sure you buckle up and root against him coming down to the stretch. Before we get into the dungeon and torture scenes, which is like it's maybe the best part of the show so far. Let's talk about the Legend of Bagger Vance moment with Sir Stuart Strange when Chichester walks up.
Yeah, okay, so they're playing golf, and immediately I'm like, how old is golf? And why aren't they playing cricket? And I didn't find an answer to why they aren't playing cricket, but golf.
And why don't they manicure the fairway a little bit more?
Something.
Jesus Christ.
I know you'd think they were poor, but man, he really treats black people great.
Yeah, what does he call it? Something about going back to his master or something like that.
Where's your master? I don't have a master. And it's like, he says his name and he knows who he is. He's like, I have nothing to say to you. I just got a sworn statement from someone about you intentionally killing a bunch of slaves after...
well, Delaney's in jail, in case you didn't know.
And then he goes, oh, fuck. Well, I got the leak. Oh, god damn it, it's that Molly, isn't it?
Well, if I was doing Sir Stuart Strange's voice right there, why wouldn't you pick up on Chichester's voice and then we do it back and forth? Why would you just take the entire thing and run with it?
Good question. You want to retry it?
No, absolutely not. You
Hello,
had your
sir.
chance.
Are you playing golf?
No, I'm not doing this with you. All right, let's get to the torture scene like you're torturing me right now.
Okay, all right, fine. Jeez.
A little melodramatic, right?
A little bit. So, torture scene, you think, man, maybe he's going to get out of this on okay. There's not this, there's like a table. It's very much like watching Hostel. And he tries to bargain and be a badass. And I don't know, for me, there's a second where I'm like, are they going to like at least bubble it up to Sir Strange? And then Sir Strange is going to say, fuck it, torture him. But no, they're just going to immediately try to torture him.
Well, yeah, because the torturer guy is like 1 to 2 hours. We'll have him singing, and of course, then it ends up going like 10 hours, 12 hours, or something like that before they finally are like, okay, And now everybody that we were looking for is probably already gone to ground. We'll never fucking catch them. We need to get this information ASAP. So that's when they end up throwing to Sir Stuart Strange. But let's talk about the actual torture stuff.
Well, yeah, the start, it was the like gold fancy cheese grater. That was a little
cheese grater, yes.
Hard to like, even before they actually. There's certain things. I'm kind of a gore hound. I love horror movies. I love cheesy ones, kind of like Evil Dead and stuff like that. So blood doesn't bother me. One of my favorite horror films is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which has almost no blood. It's all about kind of what's implied. And it wasn't until the end of the scene where they actually showed the cheese grater thing actually going into his thigh, and yet I was still just like gripping my palms intensely.
Yeah, that's a bad start. You know what I mean? Like, it's like normally I feel like when they come out with the stuff, it's just like a very light flaying.
Sure.
But no, it's like straight cheese grater to start off with.
I will
0 to 100 real quick. Whole squad on that real shit.
I don't know what any of these things feel like, but I feel like the cheese grater would be a step above the other two ones. Like, obviously not psychologically or mentally, but I don't know, visually when I watch those other two, I'm definitely not like gripping myself. I will say though, it's kind of crazy to see waterboarding in action and know that we just like straight up did it as a country for
exactly like 10 years ago. We're still doing it.
And that Trump has said, like, we'll do a lot worse than that.
Yeah, that's we should make him watch this, right?
Definitely.
No, because then he'll be like, I want gold-plated cheese graters. They're gonna be the best cheese graters. Trust me.
He's gonna have a nice little gold like table though for them to lay on and get tortured.
That's true. I want gold flecks in my LSD, Goldschlager LSD all the way.
Oh God.
So what did you think when they brought in Ming and they're literally in a sensory deprivation chamber? Actually, hold on. The weirdest goddamn thing. Mike and I recorded Young Pope last night. Check it out on boobtubebuddies.com. And it just so happened that we talked about my experience in the sensory deprivation chamber, which I told you was a little underwhelming. Well, he had brought up, that Russians used that back in the day as like a torture technique. They'd lock people in there for days, have them tripping on LSD until they just completely fucking lost it. And then a day later, I see it as a torture technique. It's like the weird, like in my entire life, it's never been brought up. And then just yesterday, before this even aired too. So it's not like he could have watched it before he came over and said that. It was just pretty crazy timing coincidence.
Yeah, they've definitely used it in torture. There's also just been people that have done like, kind of tests and stuff while doing, hallucinogenics and going in there. And it can be like crazy intense. They actually had that movie, Altered States from the 70s. That's kind of like over the top, but it's basically about government experience and sensory deprivation tanks, like, and LSD and just kind of, potentially losing your mind. I will say I've wanted to like try something like that, but I also can totally see it being too intense. I also think about something like the sensory deprivation tank and thinking about how much more powerful it would be in, say, the 1800s, even without hallucinogens. Because, modern day, we're kind of spoiled because we've seen so many things visually realized in cinema and CGI that looks like photorealistic, better than our imaginations could, like, kind of envision. Yet,
absolutely,
200 years ago, the predominant form of entertainment isn't going to be visual, like it's reading. So I'd imagine that everyday citizen would have a lot stronger kind of visual imagination than most people today, outside of like artists and those types. So I imagine it'd be pretty easy with no drugs at all to kind of start seeing some weird shit if you put yourself in that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. I never thought about it like that, but I guess that's true. I mean, because I've seen the Animatrix, so I've seen stuff that people in the 1800s would not have any exposure to. Yeah,
and I mean, I've done the sensory deprivation tank, kind of as more than anything a form of meditation, because I was taking Ritalin, like Concerta, just ADHD medication, most of my middle school, high school life, and then stopped when I got out. But I still definitely have a hard time focusing, especially if it's clerical work. Like if it's emails and reading for long periods of time, I struggle with that. And so I just wanted to get better at it through meditation and those things. But it's really hard for me to try it at home when I can hear someone mowing the lawn or a car going by. So that's why I started doing the tank. And I really
Always
enjoy
taking
it.
shortcuts.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, but I will say there are definitely been moments in there when I would just straight up, start seeing stuff for like 2 minutes, and then I kind of jog out of it and kind of come crashing back to reality. Like, that's me that has bad attention span and not a good meditator and just seeing really weird stuff, but it definitely took effort. Like, it wouldn't happen right away. And the first 2 times I did it, I didn't see much. I just kind of had an okay meditation.
Yeah, I saw trails and stuff, and maybe I've talked about it on the podcast, but they didn't put the water level up high enough on mine, and there was a fold. Yeah, there's a fold in the fabric of the thing, and so I basically, like, at a point you start drifting off, and not drifting off, but you're in like a half state of sleep and awakeness, and so I'm starting to see trails of light, and it's almost like it's shooting stars, like I'm in outer space and I'm about to go into hyperdrive or something.
Absolutely.
But the problem is instead of floating in space, it feels like I'm being propelled by like a fucking plank in my butt crack. Now, to be fair, it was not credit carding me. It was perpendicular to my butt crack. But still, like, it's forming the holy cross on my butthole. And so, like, instead of relaxing, your entire attention becomes wrapped up in this one thing. And it was just extremely disappointing for me. But anyway, we've been on it for a little while. Let's get to your favorite part. The moment that you've been waiting for what, 7+ hours already. The image that you go to sleep to every night, draped up above your bed.
You finally see him start flashing back and seeing the
in a
stuff in
loincloth.
Africa. Yeah, we had it. And his makeup was very cracked once you saw it kind of up close, and also looked kind of crazy and scary.
I did not pause it to look at what he looked like up close, you fucking weirdo.
Well, no, there's the close-up of his face in the white face paint. You can see it's all cracked.
Yeah, no, I was not paying that much attention to his body features.
Yeah, no. The makeup on his lats was freshly applied. There's no crackage.
Freshly applied. You would have made sure of that. That's funny. Okay, so this is the point where they realize, like, okay, shit, he's not going to crack. It's been half a day. Like, we wasted all this time. So that's when they bring Sir Stuart Strange, and he comes in, and I just love that Delaney uses the same line that he said to so many people, I have a use for you.
I know. He obviously has some kind of plan, was able to withstand, ungodly amounts of torture, and I am definitely excited about whatever this finale is.
Hell yes. So, best episode of the season so far?
Absolutely. Which is
like,
weird.
Without a doubt, right?
Without a doubt, yeah. Because the pilot, like every pilot of a show that I'm interested in, kind of sets up the world, and you get interested, and you kind of develop the aesthetics and all this other stuff. But the pilot also didn't, like, hook me. It wasn't like Stranger Things or Westworld's pilot, where they end up being one of the better episodes of the series. This one was far and above the strongest episode so far.
Yeah, so it absolutely was. If every episode was like this, I think we'd be looking at Taboo quite differently. Because it's been good. I've very much enjoyed it, but it hasn't been very good. Whereas this episode was just very, very good.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I definitely could see a version of this cut down quite a bit, like a decent amount of fat trim that would play a little bit better. But if the finale's as good as this episode, it'll definitely earn a fonder, place in my memory as an entire season than it otherwise was kind of heading towards.
And possibly a series, because we don't know for a fact that it's going to be, that there's going to be a second take on this.
Yeah, I think when they announced it, it was kind of meant to be a mini series, but like anything, like a movie that's kind of a standoff and isn't set up with a cliffhanger. If it makes enough money and enough people watch it, then they're likely going to try to do a sequel. I mean, Stranger Things initially was not picked up and kind of was this one-off complete series, and it obviously got picked up, and I couldn't be more excited. So we'll see.
Yeah, because it became like this massive fucking thing that everybody and their mother watches.
I almost feel like if Taboo gets picked up for a second season, it's going to go the anthology route, and it won't be about Delaney. It'll be another, Taboo story kind of in that time period.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely possible, although he is the driving force behind the show. Like, he's not just, Matthew McConaughey in the first season of True Detective. Like, he's actually, it's he and I think his brother that run the production of it, right? Yeah,
they're the ones that produce it and write it. So, I mean, we'll see if they have a continuation. I almost feel like the approach to this was we have a self-contained story, and if it were to do well and them to kind of want to continue it, they would say, okay, well, we're done with that story. Let's try something else. And, I mean, it could also do the American Horror. I mean, anthologies are more and more popular these days, which I think is a good thing. It could also do the American Horror Story approach where completely different story, but just kind of similar actors and cast.
Yeah, that's true. I guess
we'll
that's
see.
True.
But either way, I'm excited about the finale, and hey, if it gets picked up, let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. So, thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, follow us on social media, reach out to us, and just let us know what your thoughts, theories, questions, things like that are. I mean, we, generally speaking, try to be really good about getting back to people and keeping you guys included in it. So if you have any thoughts that you want to get on air for the finale, definitely write in and let us know what you think, and we'll make sure to get it up there. And I guess also check out, we just put up Young Pope. It's a full first season review, so it's just one episode for it. But we're also doing an ongoing Walking Dead, Big Little Lies started this week on HBO. And then FX is obviously Taboo, but Legion as well, which, god damn, I'm really enjoying Legion. It's so intriguing.
It is a lot of fun. We're going to be recording Legion tomorrow. We pretty much have the Legion ones out the day after, but it's been a lot of fun. Definitely really interested to see where that series goes. We're kind of back in the heat of it. We got a lot of great content coming out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Oh, and then the final Black Mirror comes out probably on Friday. And just a heads up, I put a little compilation of some of our best sketches, bits, songs, things like that in there. So it's a bit of a special episode. So anyway, that's what we got going on. 5 stars, iTunes, but I don't know, whatever. We're shilling our shit for 3 straight minutes now. Why don't you tie a bow on this bitch, Mothman?
We'll see you next week, little buddies.